Watch right now on the Front News Project. Panic in Russia, explosions all over the country, military bases burning at airports, a real collapse, and this is just the beginning. Elimination of Russian generals. The commander of the 155th Marine Brigade, Ilyin, has gone to a concert with Kobzon, and the battle for Pokrovsk continues. The Ukrainian armed forces are advancing. Fiery, intense, and blazing footage from the front lines. Watch it right now. It's the 4th year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings! This is Front News. I'm Vladimir Timoshenko. Over the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war, uncovered by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then let's get started. And we're starting right away with exclusive material. Right now, let's listen to Russians who are finally experiencing for themselves what the war unleashed by Putin really means. Thousands of detentions and cancelled flights, tens of thousands of passengers spending the night in airports. Russia has been hit by a massive aviation collapse. And all because of a few small drones hovering over the airports. It seems the Ukrainian defense forces have found yet another sore spot for the Russians. Yes, these not so powerful drones can't completely destroy enemy military factories or airfields, but they can bring an entire industry to a halt. What new discoveries did Russian citizens make for themselves this week? TSN daily journalist Alexander Zahorodny will tell us more.
Guys, it's a total mess here. There are so many people. Look, the whole roof is collapsing.
Russia has really hit rock bottom this week. In 11 regions, factories and power plants exploded, airports were closed, and warehouses were on fire.
I can't put it out.
Penza, the local thermal power plant, is on fire. Tula, there are a good 10 military enterprises located here.
It's still flying. Why don't they shoot it down? It's flying. Just step away from the window.
Among the targets are the Tula cartridge and arms factories. Besides the usual rifles and ammunition, they also produce guided missiles here.
There are seriously a tremendous ton of objects flying toward the city.
Drones are also attacking the Shipunov Instrument Design Bureau, which specializes in the production of anti-aircraft missile and gun systems.
That's a drone.
Yeah, that's definitely a drone.
Orenburg region, the city of Orsk, a mechanical plant is ablaze. They manufacture shell casings and components for multiple launch rocket systems there.
Oh wow, their workshops are on fire. A workshop caught fire. Everything's burning, you see?
This week, a significant number of good drones also flew en masse to the Moscow region, specifically to the Lukavitsy aviation plant, a notable facility. And this is almost a sacred cow of the Russian military-industrial complex. Here they assemble and repair MiG-29 and MiG-31 fighter jets. They have their own airfield, their own pilot division and unique machinery. This plant also works on improving Shahed drones.
There, an automatic.
This week, good drones even made it all the way to Moscow itself.
Ooh.
Moscow Mayor Sobyanin cheerfully reported that all UAVs were shot down, but the small unmanned drones still managed to accomplish their important mission. Just last week, the largest airports in Russia, Pulkovo in St. Petersburg and all the Vnukovo airports near Moscow implemented the carpet plan. The airports were neither receiving nor sending out planes.
We want to really stop the song.
This is how passengers at Russian airports entertained themselves at the beginning of the collapse. By the end of the second day of waiting for their flights, they were no longer so cheerful.
It's just awful. It's just insane.
Eventually, people started getting nervous and began fighting each other.
Just look at those utterly foolish individuals fighting amongst themselves.
Previously, Russians took risks. They allowed passenger planes to land at airports while their leaky air defense systems were operating. But after an Azerbaijani Airlines plane was effectively shot down over Grozny, they decided not to do that anymore. That's why passengers are forced to wait. According to unverified reports, a flight from Minsk came under fire from Moscow's air defense systems. But the pilots managed to land it.
We're being targeted by the air defense forces. I repeat, the air defense is firing at the civilian airport.
The damage to the Russian aviation industry over the past week is still being calculated, but the losses can at least be estimated based on the first 2 days of the complete aviation collapse in Russia. It lasted from the 5th of July to the 7th of July. As a result, nearly 2,000 flights were delayed, 485 were cancelled, and about 100 planes were redirected to other airports. The airports in St. Petersburg, Moscow and Nizhny Novgorod suffered massive losses, according to aviation expert Valery Romanenko.
Russian airports reportedly lost approximately 15 to 16 billion rubles in just 2 short days.
15 billion rubles is $150 million. And that's just in 2 days. And let's not forget the airlines themselves also suffer losses, and those are in the millions as well.
This includes navigation services, landing at the airport, renting a parking spot at the airport, refueling, disembarking passengers, boarding passengers, and other related services. So this is a loss for the airlines. Ticket prices are rising. Accordingly, this industry will be forced to request subsidies from the state budget. This means less money will go to the armed forces and military production.
But it's not just about the money. For the first time, the war in some way has reached the Russian people. This isn't some so-called special military operation that's far away and doesn't concern most of them. Lying on the floor at the airport, they probably understand why they're there, and not on a plane traveling for vacation.
And now, an analysis of the operational situation on the much-suffering Pokrovsk front. Here too, the situation is, as usual, extremely tense. Since the beginning of the day on the Pokrovsk front, the occupiers have already launched 26 attacks on the positions of our defenders in the areas of the settlements of Novoekonomicheskoye, Mirnoye, Rodinskoye, Fedorovka, Razino, Lisovo, Zverevo, Udachnoye, Novopavlovka, and Alexievka, and also in the direction of Pokrovsk, Rodinskoye, Novopavlovka, and Mirnograd. Holding back the enemy onslaught, Ukrainian defenders have already repelled 24 attacks by enemy units. Another 2 clashes are still ongoing. But while the Russians are building Hatso more precisely, sheds, as these structures have been nicknamed, which are used to protect equipment left over from Soviet times, Ukrainians are employing new technologies. These technologies are definitely capable of outsmarting the Russian army's makeshift handiwork, thereby slowing the enemy's advance in Ukraine. Our journalists will tell you more about the Russian summer offensive and the resistance against it.
Another surge in Russian military activity, better known as the summer offensive, has reached its climax. The Pokrovsk and Novopavlivka directions have seen the highest number of combat engagements. The situation has also escalated in the Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia regions.
The fighting is only reaching its most intense and climactic phase, and this is happening in several directions at once. The point is that the Russian Federation does not tie the execution of so-called special military operation tasks to specific deadlines.
According to the number of combat engagements, based on data from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, there was a certain decline in activity among the occupiers at the end of June and the beginning of July. However, closer to mid-July, this figure began to rise again and is now holding steady at around 180 combat engagements per day.
The occupiers are well aware that the assault on Sloviansk and the Kramatorsk agglomeration could drag on for more than a year. For comparison, the assault on Bakhmut, a small city compared to this agglomeration, took 9 months. The occupiers' losses during the street fighting for Bakhmut amounted to around 100,000, enormous losses. That's why the occupiers are fully aware of the prospects and possibilities for further advancement in the Donetsk region, and accordingly the challenges they face.
Fighters from the 28th Brigade have published a striking video of repelling an assault by the occupiers, in which more sheds appeared on camera. Is this that the enemy constantly uses in their attacks?
The Russians are trying in this way to preserve the remnants of their heavy armored vehicles and prevent Ukraine's defense forces from actively using FPV drones. Accordingly, these tank sheds are also used for demining certain sections of the front, for breaking through with assault groups, including with the use of vehicles and motorcycles. And accordingly, they can also serve as mobile electronic warfare systems at times.
According to the soldiers, it took about 60 FPV drones to destroy this structure. After all, it was very difficult to find the weak spot.
There are quite a few examples of objective evidence showing the destruction of these tank sheds. This shows that for every so-called invention by the Russian side, Ukrainian defenders demonstrate equally effective countermeasures.
According to the data available to Ukraine, Russia plans to launch up to 1,000 drones at a time against our country. Our defenders have found a solution to this problem and are able to shoot them down using interceptor drones.
No one is going to use Patriot air defense systems to shoot down drones, given their domestic cost compared to the cost of a Patriot missile. Accordingly, interceptor drones are not an alternative to the Patriot air defense system.
According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the logic of the aggressors is clear. Dictator Putin, through massive drone attacks, primarily aims to destabilize Ukrainian society. Ukraine will respond to the attacks, but for this, rapid funding from partners is needed. Yesterday, the United Kingdom and Ukraine signed a historic agreement regarding THAAD air defense missiles. The agreement will allow the supply of more than 5,000 air defense missiles, which will not only significantly strengthen the UK's defense capabilities, but also enable Ukraine to continue its fight by enhancing its protection against Russia's illegal full-scale invasion. Additionally, the British partners will provide Ukraine with assistance amounting to £283 million through the year 2026. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that Berlin is ready to purchase Patriot air defense missile systems from the United States of America for subsequent transfer to Ukraine's defense forces. In addition, Merz promised to continue supporting Ukraine and reminded that the European Union is preparing a new package of sanctions against Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron stated that his country and Britain intend to increase the number of joint expeditionary forces to 50,000 troops for a future deployment in Ukraine as part of the Resolute coalition. Macron clarified that these forces, which could be increased fivefold from their current number, will have a core formed around France and Britain and will be able to bring together other European partners.
From Kharkiv and Sumy regions to Lviv and Bukovina, the Russians have once again struck Ukraine with cruise missiles and hundreds of drones. There are dead and wounded. The enemy launched 26 cruise missiles and 597 drones. Unfortunately, not all were shot down, although the majority, 25 missiles and 319 attack UAVs, were neutralized by the defense forces. But there were also hits on civilian infrastructure, including residential buildings. The following report from our colleagues at the television news service covers this hellish attack.
It was a restless night in Lviv, with explosions happening almost continuously. This is one of the most massive drone attacks since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. This is Olena Stepanivna Street. Here stands one of the most heavily damaged buildings. While rescuers clear the rubble and check if it's safe to return inside, the residents wait outside. Many people ran out in whatever they were wearing. People say they were saved because they managed to get to the shelters in time.
I heard the alarm, so we went to the shelter. Then it hit, an explosion started going off. We stayed in the shelter the whole time.
We spent the whole night in the shelter.
Were there a lot of people in the shelter?
A lot. It's good that people went down to the shelter instead of staying at home.
It was loud, it was scary, my ears were ringing a bit. Shrapnel was falling mostly on him on his back. But we managed to run in just in time.
There were literally 5 seconds between the second shed.
This is what Lviv looked like in the morning, covered in smoke and the smell of burning in the air. The railway and Halitsky districts were hit the hardest. The most serious destruction is also on Metropolitan Andrei Street, where a 3-story building in the historic district was destroyed. In total, nearly 50 buildings were damaged in several districts of the city. About 50 windows were shattered in them. 2 industrial facilities and 19 private companies were also affected. A wall collapsed in one of the buildings.
Work is still underway to eliminate the consequences of the wall collapse at one of the sites where the wall fell down in an emergency. Fortunately, no one was injured. Now our units will be dealing with the aftermath. That is, they're hanging slabs and dangerous elements that need to be removed and disposed of.
It is already known that in one of the affected buildings, 15 apartments are unfit for living. 6 families were relocated to a hotel, while others went to stay with relatives.
Right now, the houses are being inspected by police officers. But this house is partially seriously damaged. It is considered destroyed. As of now, people cannot live there.
6 people have sought medical assistance according to the military administration. Among them is an 11-year-old boy. One of the injured was hospitalized.
And now it's time to analyze the situation on the Toretsk front. The bloody rampage of the enemy army continues here as well. On the Toretsk front, Russian occupiers launched 3 assault actions on our positions near the settlements of Toretsk, Ruskia, and Lviv. Ukrainian units have already repelled 1 attack. 2 clashes are still ongoing. But here's something else that's very important. This week, Russians once again learned that not only ordinary soldiers are dying at the front, but also generals, even so-called heroes of Russia. Most recently, there was the high-profile elimination of war criminals. Along with Putin's favorite, General Mikhail Gudkov, hero Colonel Sergei Ilyin was also killed. He was the commander of the 155th Marine Brigade. Let's look at all the details.
This week, the internet went down in many regions of Russia. The authorities explained this as a measure to counter Ukrainian drones. But it also means millions in business losses and growing discontent among local residents. You can't buy tickets online, order delivery, or even simply watch the news. Reminders like these for everyone, even the ticket counters aren't working. The war has turned out to be much closer to every Russian. And this week, they finally learned about their losses at the front. No, not from Ukrainian media, but from one of their own, the leader of the terrorist group Novorossiya, traitor and collaborator Pavel Gubarev.
Just look at how many cities we've taken there in these 3.5 years. Well, it's just ridiculous. Damn, third. For 3.5 years. 3.5 years! I claim that is, in my opinion, there are over 1 million casualties.
And Russians also learned that not only ordinary soldiers are dying at the front, but also generals, even so-called heroes of Russia. Just this week, the military, with this kind of poster, essentially admitted that, along with Putin's favorite, General Mikhail Gudkov, hero of Russia Colonel Sergei Ilyin, was also killed. He was the commander of the 155th Marine Brigade, the very same unit whose servicemen killed civilians in Bucha and also executed prisoners of war. And it's not just the generals, even ministers are dying. Roman Starovoy was part of the Russian ruling elite, headed the Kursk region, and eventually became the Minister of Transport. And this week, just like Thaith shot himself in his expensive Tesla, or maybe near the Tesla in the bushes, or maybe he was shot, but before that he was badly beaten.
You can go to the place where Roman Starovoy's body was found.
Where and how the minister died, it doesn't even matter that much anymore. Russians have realized, in the state Putin has built, no one is protected anymore, not generals, not governors, not ministers. So what can be said about ordinary citizens? And they've also realized there's nowhere to run. Roman Starovoy had millions and access to all of Russia's transportation planes, trains, steamships. But he only managed to make it to the bushes in Bodiansovo. That's a small town 22 kilometers from the center of Moscow. Russia is burning for now only in isolated spots, but the fires no longer go out day or night. And explosions are heard around the clock, and there will definitely be more to come.
Guys, we have absolutely no other viable choice, damn it. Look, the whole roof is collapsing.
Now let's analyze the situation on the Novopavlovsk front. The Russian world continues to destroy, kill and maim here as well. On the Novopavlovsk front, the invaders launched 12 assaults on the positions of Ukrainian forces near the settlements of Novokatskoye, Zaporozhye, Komar, Mirnoye, Podubnoye, Voskresenka, Svobodnoy Pol, Shevchenko, Zelenoy Pol and Timirovka. Our soldiers have already repelled 9 attacks. The fighting does not subside. And now for some positive news from the front. The armed forces of Ukraine have recaptured part of the territory near Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. According to the Institute for the Study of War, the AFU advanced south of Udachne. Although fierce fighting continues and the Russians keep attacking in several directions at once, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv artillery, drones, glide bombs, enemy drones have been intercepted and we are now using them against the aggressors themselves. TSN Weekly military correspondent Andrei Tsaplienko took a closer look at what is not shown at military parades, using the example of one Green Beret unit that is stretched along the entire northern border.
Garmata. Ukrainian military officials claim that the situation in the Sumy direction has become a little calmer this week. But this does not mean that the Russians have stopped storming Ukrainian positions. And now, artillerymen and bodyguards are trying to stop one of these assaults.
The border detachment Steel Border has all the elements of a full-fledged brigade. Units of the 15th Detachment are engaged along almost the entire front. But the north, and especially the Sumy region, are the priority.
Now things have gotten a bit easier. We've stopped the enemy's advance. The Steel Border is holding... If you look at the deep state map, that little piece is small. That is exactly the spot where today the border guards of the Steel Border that are defending our country, and they truly stand as a steel border in this sector.
Moreover, it's museum-grade weapons that are stopping the enemy here. A BS gun for 1,944. Usually these are set up as monuments.
So what are its advantages?
That's what gives it its range, as I understand it. With their old cannons, the border guards have sniped and destroyed an enemy self-propelled gun and enemy fortifications several kilometers from the front line. The enemy is searching for these gunners with drones.
That's what we hear in the sky. It could be UAVs or some kind of Gerbera or Shahed.
Got it.
Yes, it's been shot down.
Here, this is a recently downed Gerbera Dronia cheap version of the Shahed. It's unusual because Gerberas are usually white, but this one is black, so it's harder to spot at dusk. But these vigilant guys took it down with an equally unusual weapon, which it seems they borrowed from the same museum as the cannon.
From 1949, it's from 1949.
What is it?
It's a ZPU-4. It's effective, as you can see from the shootouts.
How many Shahids have you shot down?
Well, yes, 15 Shaheds. 15 Shahids.
And this Russian reconnaissance drone was guiding air bombs onto Ukrainian positions in real time.
This is a supercam which they manufacture, and our fighters shot it down. Most likely it was brought down by electronic warfare because it's...
In the Steel Border laboratory, they will try to get it airborne again.
We'll try to restore it.
Will you possibly use it as a reconnaissance drone against the Russians?
Well, I certainly hope so.
More than half of enemy losses are not from artillery, but from drone strikes. That's why the top priority target for the supercams to hunt is the operators of Ukrainian drone systems.
Right now, we've become the #1 priority. They're constantly searching for us, sparing no effort, even going so far as to use a large number of glide bombs.
And for now, there's no way to defend against glide bombs.
Attention! Glide bombs launched. Oh, that means we need to speed up and turn around.
It was with this kind of harshness and ruthlessness that Russian aerial bombs destroyed one of the drone command posts of the Steel Border. It would seem impossible to survive in such hell.
The enemy isn't here!
But the guy survived. By a miracle.
It was Armageddon, just one big crater. Everyone started shouting, "Who's alive? Is everyone okay?" One of our comrades managed to get out and brought a group of our brothers who started digging us out.
And now we're moving to the Lyman direction of the front. The situation here is also extremely tense. In the Lyman direction, Ukrainian units repelled 10 attacks in the areas of Khekivka, Novomikhailivka, Karpivka, Novy Mir, Kolodyazi, Torske, and in the directions of Novozergivka and Shandriolov. Another 4 attacks are still ongoing. As for the Sumy region, the Ukrainian armed forces have established a steel border in defense here. Its main goal is to prevent the fighting from reaching urban areas. The Russians are turning villages into ruins. FPV drones with optical guidance chase after civilian vehicles traveling on rural roads, so underground fortifications are being actively built in the forests. All the details are in the following report.
And this is the Chernihiv border area. It seems a bit calmer here, but the fiber optic cable just left behind by a Russian FPV drone is a reminder. This calm is only an illusion.
They send the drone out like it's on a free hunt, looking for any target moving along the road, and then strike it.
What can be done?
There's nothing better than a 12 gauge against fiber optic cable. It was an FPV drone, so we shot it. You can see here that the blades were hit, as well as the body itself.
So you have a Ukrainian spool and this is a Russian one, right?
The Russian spool is also for 15 kilometers.
The escort unit of the Steel Border Detachment responds in kind. This is how their drones, using fiber optics, enter enemy territory and strike at the Russians' electronic warfare equipment.
We haven't been on this section for long, but we've already carried out strikes using fiber optics, used our analog FPV drones for both mining with the Vampire and hitting depots with the Vampire. So here we've already hit the enemy's ammunition depot and light vehicles.
Drones have changed the battlefield, but there are tasks for which a rifle is better suited than a drone.
There's a small, very niche role left for snipers, but it still exists.
And what is that niche?
Well, that's urban combat.
In Sumy region, Steel Border in defense is trying not to let things escalate to urban fighting. The Russians are turning villages into ruins. FPV drones with optical guidance chase after civilian vehicles moving along rural roads, so underground gallery fortifications are being built intensively in the forests.
These are like long tunnels, right? Yes, exactly.
And these tunnels, as I understand it, are supposed to connect all the shelters here?
Yes, everything is completely connected so that our movement on the surface, out in the open, is kept to a minimum.
Before the underground construction began in the forest, this four-legged sapper, Yola, did her work here.
At this very location, we found 120mm mines 20 of Lyman, 82mm mines 44 of them.
The Steel Border project is effectively doing what civilian builders utterly failed to accomplish during the entire 6 months of the Kursk operation.
When you were pulling back, did you occupy the fortifications built by civilians? No. Along this entire defensive line outside the city, in front of the city and out in the open field, I don't think any sensible serviceman would take up a defensive position there. Why? Because there's no cover from aviation, artillery or drones. I wouldn't send my people there.
In dense forests, it's possible to bring the medical station as close to the front line as possible.
We are the first ones to be on this front line.
That's why medics can make use of the golden hour and give the wounded a chance to survive.
A serviceman who was wounded and brought in a state of clinical death is alive and already in a clinical hospital in Kyiv.
This stabilization point and the 3 operating beds were also built by the military themselves, not by civilians. Here, under the trees, it would have been possible to dig out entire fortified areas in advance if the work of civilian builders had been supervised by those who are now fighting in these forests.
The forests here stretch almost to the border, so it's possible to hide these small American cannons very well. That's exactly why they remain effective in the Sumy region. In the Sumy region...
Here's another historical rarity from the border guards, M101 cannon. These saw action in the Korean War and even World War II, but have proven relevant even in the era of all-seeing drones.
For example, with the BS-3, when it fires, there's a huge amount of gas and a lot of fire. That's not the case here. You can fire at night. There's no chance you'll be spotted. It's quiet.
That's probably why this former music teacher, now a gunner who used to fight with the BS-3, traded the Soviet relic for an American one, keeping a stylish tattoo as a memento of the old gun.
We can even play a tune on it if needed.
Call sign Partisan, a local from Sumy, drives Russian howitzers away from his own home. And another surprise somewhere nearby, his students are also fighting.
I'm especially pleased that there are those very students, about 3 or 4 people as far as I remember, who are now serving in the armed forces.
Your students joined the armed forces?
Yes.
We hope that bullets, shrapnel and drones will pass by the music teacher and his students, because only thanks to such sincere and caring people is there a chance to defend their home.
That's all for today. But very soon, Front News will bring you new unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Vladimir Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.